So today I'm going to be answering the question, how did the main factions within first century Judaism originate? So although we often think of Judaism as an ancient religion and all as one big religion, in fact there was a lot of different factions, and Judaism was not just one state group. It was a very diverse religion in terms of all the groups it had in it. And so these factions of Judaism originated because of the foreign domination, which created division among the Jewish people and therefore made them split into different factions. So the three main factions that I'm going to be talking about are the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Essenes. And I am not talking about the common Jew because that was not one of the factions of Judaism. So, first, before we dive into these three factions, it's very important to understand some historical background and context. So, from 598 to 538 BC, the nation of Israel was in Babylonian captivity. However, only a select few Jews were brought to Babylon. So Nebuchadnezzar handpicked the most handsome and the smartest of the Israelite nobility, and took these men to his palace to be educated and fed by him. And by doing this, he used these powerful men to, he basically did this as a power move to use these men to further his kingdom. So these men that he brought would become loyal to the Babylonians because they were educated there, so they were going to be influenced by these Babylonian ideas. And then when they returned to their native land, they would carry a lot of that and influence the Israelites. And meanwhile, back in Judah, there was these poor, ugly and stupid people that were left in the city to lead the people. And because the temple had been destroyed before this captivity was happening, the Jewish religion, which had been focused a lot on the rituals of the temple, in turn became a religion of the book, religion of the Torah. So these men that were left, I feel really bad calling them stupid and ugly, so I'm just going to refer to them as the left behind men. These men took the religion and kind of really focused on the law and the Torah, and they had a lot of influence and power over the people because there was no priest and there was no temple, so the people looked to them and they could gain a lot of power. So that leads us with the background in place. We can go into our story about the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Essenes. So we talked about how these left behind men kind of gained power, and they started influencing the Jewish people, and they talked a lot about the law. The Pharisees seem to have been pious Jews who made... Oh, I'm skipping too far ahead. Well, anyway, the Pharisees kind of originated from this time in Babylonian captivity, and they were the leaders of the common people. So they had a lot of influence over those people. And they were very law-abiding, strict to the law. Shea Cohen says, they seem to have been a scholarly group who have a reputation as the most meticulous observers of ancestral laws. And Elias Bickerman says, Pharisees wish to embrace the whole people, in particular through education. So the Pharisees decided that the people needed to be educated, so they began these schools to educate the people about the scriptures. So that is who the Pharisees were, and how they originated was from the Babylonian domination of the Israelites. These leaders rose up that were laser focused on teaching the people law, and they had a lot of influence over the common people. So next we have the Sadducees. As I talked about before, these were, we have these guys that were taken by Nebuchadnezzar into his palace to be trained and taught, and eventually they were allowed to go back to Judah, and they thought that when they got back home they would assume the roles that they had when they were there before. They wanted to assume their former roles. So they did. They actually had a lot of power over the people of Israel because the people looked to them as protection. And so they had a lot of power, mostly over the elite class. And they were a political party. So the name the Sadducees it's thought that they came from Zadok the priest. Others think the name comes from Tzadik, which means righteous. So during the time, I'm skipping ahead to tell you about how this faction originated. So during the time of the Hasmonean rulers, the Sadducees had influence over John Hyrcanus' court. And Hyrcanus was originally a Pharisee, but after being accused of heresy, he joined the Sadducees. Hey, Pharisee and heresy, that rhymes. So anyway, they had a lot of power in this guy's court. And interestingly enough, during the time of Jesus in that first century, Sadducees, we never see recorded Sadducees converting to Christianity. And they actually are thought to have been the group that killed James, the brother of Jesus. That is the Sadducees. They were the elite priest group that are thought to have come from the exiles. I like to call these people the elite exiles. So we have the left behind guys and the elite exiles. And I have a quote that says, Sadducees emerged as a religious faction from the upper class society descended from those Jews who had lived in exile. So that is the theory, that these men came from exile. So that is our Sadducees. And the third group is the Essenes. And the Essenes were significantly smaller than both the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And under the Essenes is kind of a larger group of the mystic, ascetic people. So a few defining things about the Essenes. They came from the Second Temple Judaism, and they kind of can be compared to the Pharisees in terms of how much they prioritized purity. So they were big on communal life. They lived very simplistic lives, and they didn't give voluntary sacrifices. They didn't like taking oaths. They avoided swearing, and a lot of them were celibate and didn't even get married. Well, obviously. I'm going really long. Okay, so in conclusion, the main factions of Judaism originated from Babylonian captivity, and the three factions were the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Essenes. Bam. Please like and subscribe. Just kidding. I don't care.